everyone. Thanks for joining us for York History Storytellers Night. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you in person. I am pretty clumsy and I took a pretty nasty fall in a parking lot yesterday. So I'm kind of beat up and not really leaving my house very much. So instead you get me on video. So what I'd like to talk about today is a little different than some of the other topics for Storytellers Night. The two things I talk about most on my Only New York County blog are food and shopping. And so when we said we were going to talk about the high points and low points of York County's history, the problem with food as a topic is that I have no low points. So I decided to talk about shopping. So when we talk about shopping, I want to ask everybody here to think back about your earliest memories of buying new clothes. Maybe you were back to school shopping, maybe you were being taken to get something dressy and probably uncomfortable for Christmas or Easter. So where did you go? Where did you shop? Some of you are going to remember Bears and W.T. Grant and the Bon-Ton and Jack's downtown York. Some of you might have gone to Sears at the former York County Shopping Center, maybe Mailman's in Queensgate. For my part, I went to Hess's in the, at the time, new West Manchester Mall for good things, and Hills and Delco Plaza for most things, because my parents, they weren't native Yorkers, but they definitely were proud York County bargain hunters. So when my son was little, I was kind of the West Manchester Walmart budget. Occasional sales at the Galleria Boscov. And then as I was thinking about preparing this talk, I realized there are possibly people listening to this whose parents bought their younger life clothes on Amazon. So that's kind of blowing my mind, but hi, young historians, if there are any listening. So here's the thing. We have these different eras, different places people went. And what I'm going to talk about today is kind of how did we get from each era to the next? What happened? What did that look like in the context of York County? So the first thing that we talked about, I said maybe you remember going to Bears or Jack's downtown, right? So most of you here will not remember the earliest heyday of shopping in York around the turn of the century, turn of the 20th century. But from then till the 50s, early 60s, most of you were probably shopping downtown when you went clothing shopping. And that continued, and when I write my columns, that's what I hear a lot about. Hey, we used to go downtown, we would have lunch, we would shop, at Christmas, there were the Santas. It's a really big deal to people. So that was an important part of York County's history. And most people view that as, hey, that was really good. From that point on, we start to have some debate about whether things are good or not. So when we're talking about what happened next, we have some, what we would call suburban growth or suburban sprawl, depending on how positively you want to look at it. That's when we started to build things out in Spring Township, West Manchester Township. We have things like the York County Shopping Center coming to be at this time. We're talking the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. For a while, people were super thrilled, right? We had these great new destinations where you might have places like Sears, bigger stores, more variety, and people could shop maybe closer to home if they didn't live in the city. So that part, again, most people thought, okay, this is cool. But then something happened, and that was that as the stores in the suburbs grew, the ones downtown tended to decline. We had closures of the big department stores downtown. We had some small businesses, but they didn't necessarily thrive. So towards the late 60s, going into the 70s, 80s, and 90s, downtown York changed a lot. It became much less of a shopping destination. We did still have our farmers markets and things like that, but people weren't saying, oh gosh, let's go downtown and get everything. So at the same time that that decline was happening, we went from, we're just starting to build things out in the suburbs to what I call a suburban boom. And so that's, we had the West Manchester Mall, the North Mall, a little later in this period, the Galleria was built. And so 70s, 80s, 90s, starting to go maybe into the early 2000s, we really had this time when all of York County was building. They're building new shopping centers. We had indoor malls, strip malls, both. And they were thriving. They were all full. People were going there. Again, mixing in food. Most of these plazas had restaurants. And again, people started to think, oh, great, I can shop near my house. But so then something happened again. And then in the 90s and early 2000s, so we had some obvious economic changes. after 2001, we had a number of changes in terms of where people were living. People didn't necessarily want to live right next to a shopping mall anymore. And so they were moving further into the suburbs, into more residential areas. And so then we started to see some suburban decline. And you look at things like malls that had big empty stores. You look at things like standalone stores that started to sit empty. You started to look at things like a new strip mall being built and everything leaving another strip mall to go there rather than filling up both of them. So 90s, 2000s, and starting in around the 2000s and into the 2010s, then what we got was something new downtown. We got a revitalization downtown. We started having First Fridays that were more prominent. We have art galleries. We started having a lot of new development with Royal Square and other organizations. And so when we did that, then we ended up with this new downtown. And at the same time, again, in the last probably 5 or 6 years, we also had another revitalization in the suburbs. So we redid the West Manchester Shopping Center now, where the West Manchester Mall used to be, and we have a strip mall there. We had a lot of other new construction that was going on. And I think this is the phase we're in now, where we're going to start to see both the downtown continue to grow and the suburbs as well. So maybe shopping's not on its surface nearly as far-reaching or life-changing as some of the other speakers' night topics, but these retail movements are really a big part of what shaped York County's development. You build a mall and houses will follow. You build a new upper-class neighborhood a little outside of an existing suburb and the stores are going to follow. But to the theme of the evening about highlights and lowlights, I'm going to leave it to you to decide what's good or bad about the shopping destination migrations. I can see a number of good points and bad points on both sides. Based on the traffic I've seen out and about this year while holiday shopping, I'm going to submit that there's room for a lot of different kinds of shopping experiences in York County. But my goal is to find out what you think. Where did you find the best shopping experiences in York County in your lifetime? Where did you find the ones that were a problem or a challenge, or where you thought, oh, this isn't what we want as a county? And if you're from outside the city and its immediate suburbs, what did shopping migrations look like in your town? So I want to collect some ideas and use them for future columns. You can comment online at yorkblog.com/onlyyork, and you can email me at joan@joanconcilio.com. And either way, happy shopping.